Some say it's just a show. But what if Squid Game wasn't fiction? What if it's closer than we think? Hiding beneath headlines, cloaked in power, whispered only in the darkest corners of the world. Close your eyes. Imagine waking up in a bare room. The walls are white. The light is artificial. You don't know how you got here. But a voice crackles overhead. The game is about to begin. This isn't television. This is real. And it's been happening silently, invisibly for years. What if Squid Game wasn't a dystopian fantasy, but a coded reflection of something buried in plain sight? A story disguised as fiction to desensitize us to its possibility. Some believe the show's premise mirrors hidden truths, rituals of power, manipulation, and debt-fueled desperation. Let's go deeper. In a world ruled by elites and layered with secrets, could a hidden competition like Squid Game actually exist? Not televised, not theatrical, but stripped down, brutal, and terrifyingly real. Some call it conspiracy, others call it protection of the status quo. In 1971, the Stanford prison experiment showed how quickly people collapse under manufactured authority. In just days, ordinary men became either monsters or victims. No scripts. Just rules, uniforms, and power. Now imagine that weaponized by design. And then there's the Milgram experiment. Ordinary people, convinced by a figure of authority, delivered fatal shocks to strangers, not out of hate, but because they were told to. Obedience. Blind, brutal obedience. In the right setting, could you? These weren't stories. They were experiments. Funded, designed, executed. Now scale it up. What if the rich and powerful wanted answers about you? About how far someone would go for money, freedom, or survival? What better test than a secret game? Debt, desperation, isolation. Squid Game's players had nowhere left to turn, but in real life, millions live that reality every day. Crushed by financial systems, ignored by governments, invisible in plain sight. Perfect candidates, wouldn't you say? If such a game existed, where would it hide? Underground? Offshore? Or within legal gray zones protected by layers of corporate ownership? A decommissioned oil rig? A deep-sea base? A remote military facility no longer active? Participants wouldn't be recruited in the open. No ads, no posters, just whispers in alleys, mysterious business cards, anonymous messages offering a way out, temptation wrapped in desperation offering a game you can't afford to ignore. Think that's far-fetched? In 2012, an underground fight club in Thailand was exposed. Tourists paid to watch desperate men beat each other for prize money. The organizers? Connected, wealthy, and protected. Sound familiar? Surveillance tech has made secrecy harder for the public. But for those who own the tech, it's a weapon. Geofencing, facial tracking, thermal imaging. They know where we go, what we buy, how we break. But what do they do with that data? Whistleblowers from global surveillance firms have spoken of interest profiles tags assigned to citizens based on stress reactions, spending habits, and crisis behavior. Wouldn't that make it easier to predict who'd play and who'd win? Dark web forums occasionally buzz with rumors, secret tournaments, human auctions, elite parties with strange rules. Most dismiss them as roleplay, but others point to disappearing users, encrypted photos, and a silence that feels unnatural. In 1997, a wealthy financier disappeared while under investigation. Days later, unconfirmed footage leaked online. A masked group in a room with numbered individuals kneeling. A countdown began. Then static. The file vanished in hours. Could that have been real? Could it have been part of a game? The file was traced to servers in the Balkans, then to an abandoned facility in rural Kazakhstan. Interpol never confirmed or denied its origin. Now here's a chilling thought. What if some contestants never knew it was a game? What if they believed they were part of a study or a retreat until the first elimination? The shock would be complete. The compliance inevitable. Every system, financial, educational, judicialis, designed with thresholds. What happens when those thresholds collapse? When the poor stop trusting the rules? When the desperate stop believing help will come? That's when the games begin. There are patterns in the data, spikes in disappearances among the unhoused in certain global cities, gaps in prison records, missing persons who had just filed for bankruptcy or posted desperate GoFundMe pleas. Coincidence or harvesting? In 2008, during the financial crash, a wealthy group hosted a closed survival camp in a remote part of Chile. Only satellite images revealed the compound. Locals heard screams at night. Days later, it was gone, erased like a ghost. Could these be trial games? Could they be experimental setups for a larger project? Test runs? Rehearsals? Some believe the true games have yet to begin, and everything so far has been a screening process. There's always a front, a charity, a tech startup, a philanthropic fund, but behind it offshore accounts, shell companies, names that appear once and vanish. Layers of protection wrapped around something designed to never surface. Imagine a billionaire obsessed with control, addicted to risk, surrounded by yes men. What happens when money loses meaning? What entertains someone who has everything? Perhaps orchestrating life and death decisions like puppet theater. Secret societies have always existed, from the Bohemian Grove to the Bilderberg meetings. Not fictional, documented, verified, but what's said behind those closed doors remains unknown. Perhaps some of those whispers are games in the making. Symbols, colors, numbers. In Squid Game, they were everywhere. In reality, symbols are used to by cults, syndicates, cabals, markers of rank, obedience, silence. Do you notice them? Do you know what they mean? Some theories suggest entire cities are game board zones of control and chaos. Ever notice how some streets are always under construction? Or why certain buildings remain empty for decades? What if they're part of something else? A former insider once said, "The real games don't look like games. They look like desperation." Think about that. When you're begging for a loan, fighting for shelter, choosing between rent and food, are you already playing? We're conditioned to accept hierarchy, to obey without question. But the games exploit more than obedience. They prey on hopelessness. That's why they target the invisible, the forgotten, the ones no one would miss. But there's a final twist. Believe participants volunteer, not coerced, not kidnapped, but convinced, manipulated to believe that playing is their only way out, that no one is coming. That survival depends on submission. Game theory shows us something chilling. Most people will betray others if the prize is survival, not out of evil but logic. Strip away comfort and we all become players. That's the theory. But has it been tested? The rules are always simple, but the consequences? Not. One mistake, and you're gone. Not dead, not always, but disappeared, forgotten. No headlines, just a silent vanishing. Because the real world doesn't send consolation prizes. Imagine this. You receive a plain envelope, no return address. Inside, a card with a symbol and a phone number. No name, no instructions. Just call if you want a chance. What would you do? Would curiosity win? Or fear? Some reports mention strange recruitment tactics people approached at bus stations, payday loan offices, gambling halls. They're watched, followed, approached only when they hit rock bottom. That's when the offer comes. Play the game, win it all. Players are often isolated. No family, no close ties, no one to question where they went. Ideal candidates for a game that doesn't want an audience. A vanishing that no one investigates. A silence no one hears. There's speculation that some players do return but changed. Quiet, withdrawn, sudden wealth but no explanation. Some vanish again years later. Some die mysteriously. Others leave cryptic messages online. Whispers, warnings, codes no one understands. In 2015, a Reddit thread appeared titled, "I played a game, don't." It was deleted within minutes. The account burner, but a screenshot survived. It mentioned masked guards, color-coded rooms, and a final test where trust was the trap. Let's talk about masks. In Squid Game, the guards wore them to strip away identity. In real secret societies, masks are used too, to equalize, to dehumanize, to control. You're not a person. You're a piece, a pawn, a number. The most disturbing theory? That the games are recorded, not for broadcast but for private viewing. A black market cinema, the ultimate snuff genre, watched by elites behind closed doors. The price of admission? More than most people earn in a lifetime. There's a chilling black market code, Red Wins, found in encrypted chat rooms and private torrent trackers. Experts think it refers to final survivors in illegal game tournaments. Red, symbolizing blood or choice. Philanthropic death games sound impossible, but look at history. Roman gladiators, Mayan sacrifice rituals, Nazi human trials. We've always blurred the line between spectacle and suffering. It's not new. We've just changed the costumes. If these modern games exist, they must have rules, a structure, a code of silence, a reward system. The bigger the risk, the bigger the prize. But what's truly terrifying? The winners never speak. Conspiracy theorists suggest the games act as filters, not just to entertain, but to recruit. The survivors prove something rare: obedience, cunning, moral flexibility, skills prized by intelligence agencies and syndicates. Ever heard of the quiet billionaire? The one who emerged from nowhere, makes no public appearances, and buys silence with donations? Some believe they were players Ansano turned patrons. There are even stories of observers, people who attend the games but never play. They watch, take notes, bet, laugh. Rumor says some wear animal mask symbols of primal instinct. Lion, owl, jackal, snake. Every culture has myths of secret trial tests hidden within society. Tales where the hero is tested without knowing, judged on survival, not virtue. Maybe these aren't myths. Maybe they're memories, recycled through storytelling. It's said if you look in the right places, deep forums, encrypted chats, obscure darknet puzzles, you might find an invitation. But beware, the first test is silence. And failing that, ends more than your game. Think about the power it would take to keep something like this hidden. Governments, intelligence networks, financial institutions, all complicit or carefully blind. Sometimes, it's not about what's hidden. It's about what we've been trained not to see. Still think it's fiction? Remember, every great lie hides behind a joke. It's just a show, they say, but perhaps that's the genius. Make it so loud, so obvious, so stylized, that no one believes it could be real. The next time you see a desperate person on the street, remember, someone might be watching them, evaluating, recruiting, waiting. The line between game and life isn't always clear, especially when both are a fight for survival. So, what if Squid Game wasn't fiction? What if the show was a whisper, Not a warning, but a confession. A glimpse behind the curtain, dressed in neon and blood. What if the real game never ended? You've made it through the game of whispers. But the question remains, would you play? Or maybe you already are, in systems rigged against you, in choices no one sees. Thanks for listening to BuzzWhispers. If this episode made you think, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who sees the world a little differently. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and see you in the next episode.